Okay, so according to this problem, together Geraldine and Josephine baked 54 cookies. Geraldine took 2/5 of her cookies to a family party and saved the rest of the cookies for her grandkids. Josephine took 2/3 of her cookies to the same family party and saved the rest of the cookies for her grandkids. Altogether, Geraldine and Josephine took 28 cookies to the family party. How many cookies did each bake? So to do this problem, we're going to make a table. Okay, now that we have a table, we can start with the orange sentence. The orange sentence states that Geraldine took 2/5 of her cookies to a family party and saved the rest of the cookies for her grandkids. To represent this sentence, we're going to be using an orange square, and each of these orange squares are going to represent 1/5 of Geraldine's amount of cookies. And since the orange sentence says Geraldine took 2/5 of her cookies, we're going to need all 5/5. Okay, we'll put 2 of her fifths at the party and save the rest of the 3 for the home section. There. Now we can move on to the blue sentence. Now the blue sentence says, Josephine took 2/3 of her cookies to the same family party and saved the rest of the cookies for her grandkids. And we'll use the same thing here, but this time we're using a triangle to represent Josephine's cookies. We'll put 2 of these triangles over here and save the last one for home. There. Now that we've finished representing the orange and blue sentences, we can work on the green one, in which it says Geraldine and Josephine took 28 cookies to the family party. Now we'll just circle this. Okay, so we know that these 2 squares and 2 triangles represent 28 of the 52 total cookies. So, if 28 cookies were taken to the party, how many were left for home? Okay, so we know that 54 cookies were baked in total, and 28 were taken to the party, which leaves 26 for home. Right. So these 3 squares over here and 1 triangle represent 26 cookies. Now that we've represented this, we need to figure out how many cookies do 1 square represent and how many cookies are represented by a triangle. We know that 1 triangle represents 1/3 of Josephine's cookies and one of Geraldine's squares is 1/5 of her total cookies. So to find this out, we're going to look at the 28 over here. 2 squares and 2 triangles represent 28 cookies, meaning that if we are to just divide this up here, we have one square and one triangle on each side, that means one square and one triangle should represent 14 cookies. Okay, now that we know that, we can also see there's another pair over here. One square and one triangle, the home section. That should also represent 14 cookies. There. So, since 14 of the cookies are represented by the square and this triangle, that means there should only be 12 cookies over here, where we have the two squares. Since two squares represent 12 cookies. Now that we have that information, we can tell that if two squares represents 12 cookies, one square should represent 6 cookies. And now we know the value of one square. Take one of these, and since this is very important information, put it at the bottom and write its value. One square represents 6 cookies. Okay, and now that we have that knowledge, we can look back at our pair here. We need to figure out how many cookies are represented by a triangle. We know that a square and a triangle together represent 14 cookies, and one square represents 6 cookies, meaning that one triangle should represent 14 minus 6, which is 8 cookies. So now we know the value of a triangle here. Oh, there we go. One triangle represents 8 cookies. And now that we have this, we can figure out how many cookies Geraldine baked and how many Josephine baked. Geraldine has her cookies separated into fifths. One square represents 1/5 of Geraldine's cookies. And since one square also represents 6 cookies, that means we just go 6 times 5 is 30. So Geraldine must have baked 30 cookies. We'll write that down. Geraldine baked 30. Now we just need to figure out how many Josephine baked. Now, Josephine has 3 triangles, each triangle representing a third of her total number of cookies. Each triangle also represents 8 cookies. So that means Josephine must have baked 3 times 8, which is also 24. She must have baked 24 cookies. Goodness. There we go. Now we have our answer to the problem. Geraldine baked 30 cookies and Josephine baked 24 cookies.